More NATO: how the alliance is increasing its military presence in Eastern Europe. NATO is increasing its presence in southeastern Europe. This week it was announced that additional military contingents will be deployed in Romania and Bulgaria. According to Izvestia, in addition to motorized infantry and tank units, missile systems carrying high-precision weapons HIMARS and M270 will be sent to these countries. Experts believe that their range can pose a threat to Russia. See our story for more information on what other forces are being redeployed to NATO's southern flank and what tasks they can perform. Tanks and missiles: the US is planning to send to Eastern Europe the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment that is based in Germany. The 1st Squadron of the regiment has already begun redeployment to the region, sources familiar with the situation told Izvestia. In the future it is planned to deploy all combat units of this military unit on the southern flank of NATO. It is also planned to send units of the 173rd Airborne Brigade of the US, which is now in Italy. They will also serve in rotation. On February 17, NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg announced after the meeting of defense ministers of the bloc that the alliance would increase its military presence in the east, center, and southeast of Europe. He cited the actions of Russia, which Western countries have recently regularly accused of preparing an attack on Ukraine. In addition to the aforementioned units, the deployment of HIMARS and M270 multiple rocket launchers in the region is not ruled out, according to Izvestia's sources. They will be rotated. In addition to the above-mentioned units, the deployment of HIMARS and M270 multiple launch rocket systems in the region is not ruled out, Izvestia's sources claim. They will be rotated. HIMARS, High Mobility Artillery Rocket System, is the newest development in its class. The system is mounted on a light armored truck. It can fire 6 unguided rockets at once. It has a large and impressive arsenal that allows it to meet a variety of missions, such as creating minefields. HIMARS can use GMLRSU/AW and ATACMS guided munitions. This missile system is capable of engaging targets up to 300 kilometers away. This exceeds, for example, the distance from the coast of Romania to the Crimea. And the missile systems deployed in Poland can reach any point of the Kaliningrad region. The US is now testing a promising high-precision operational tactical missile, Precision Strike Missile, PRSM. Initially, its declared range was 499 kilometers, but after the US side withdrew from the Treaty on Intermediate Range and Shorter Range Missiles, this indicator was increased. For battle groups. According to the plan discussed at the February 16, 17 meeting of NATO defense ministers, 4 multinational battle groups can be created and about 1,000 troops can be deployed in Bulgaria and Romania, and possibly in Slovakia and Hungary as well. It is expected that a decision on their deployment can be made in the spring. But NATO will not stop there. Deployment of troops of the United States and the allied countries to Romania has already begun. On February 9, about 1,000 American servicemen came there from Germany, in addition to those who were already there by rotation. The head of the country, Klaus Johannes, and NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg met at the Mihai Kogalniceanu military base in Romania on February 11 and made several statements about the deployment of NATO forces in Romania. We are ready to act. The President of the United States has announced that he is ready to contribute another 8,500 troops to the NATO response force, which can quickly be in Romania if there is an urgent need, Stoltenberg said at the time. Slovak Prime Minister Eduard Heger said the country would consider accepting additional NATO troops in the interests of Slovak and European security. Bulgaria was named at the NATO ministerial meeting as another country being considered for the deployment of an additional contingent. Defense Minister Stefan Yanov said an international battle group of up to 1,000 people under Bulgarian command would be formed there. 30% of its personnel will consist of NATO allies. The rest of the contingent will be made up of Bulgarians. Next week, the USA will send from Germany to Bulgaria a company of motorized infantry with Stryker armored personnel carriers. It will take part in joint training. They are coming for a long time. Inna Vetrenko, chair of the Department of Management and Social Technologies of Northwestern Institute of Russian Presidential Academy of National Economy and Public Administration, has told to Izvestia that the US and Great Britain either do not believe that we will withdraw our troops after the end of the exercises or they do not want to believe it, continuously accusing Russia of reinforcement of its forces. In turn, they announce their large-scale exercises and build up forces in Eastern Europe, said the expert. The maneuvers of NATO countries are expected to be large-scale. There haven't been such maneuvers for 37 years. The US is acting according to the Chinese strategy, fire in the east and attack in the west. Ukraine, around which much has been broken, is largely a distraction. The Americans are in no hurry to go there. Now it is gradually becoming clear where the forces will really be concentrated and what weapons systems will threaten our country. It looks like Romania and Bulgaria are among the countries where such groups will be created. In the near future, we will have a complete geopolitical layout for the next 2 or 3 years. And it will be determined by the weapon systems that the United States will deploy in Eastern Europe. Of course, missile systems, although not located on the territory of Ukraine, pose the greatest threat to us. They allow strikes at a distance, and they can also be moved quite easily to any point in the region, bringing them close to our southern borders. The expert also noticed that by supplying equipment to Romania and Bulgaria, NATO not only increases the anti-Russian hysteria in these countries, but also binds them to itself even more, trying to show their determination and instilling confidence that they will never be left. According to military expert Vladislav Shurigin, the most unpleasant thing is that the military contingent and the rocket systems will stay there permanently and for a long time. They will be brought in under the guise of some exercises, and then they will forget to remove them, says the expert. Everyone will quickly forget why they are there, and their deployment will be fixed. It's all part of the efforts to move troops and weapons closer to our borders. And it is being done systematically. Of course, multinational battle groups of about 1,000 troops, or motorized infantry on armored personnel carriers, are small forces. But the HIMARS and M270 systems are another matter. These are carriers of supersonic high-precision missiles, serious weapons. They are highly mobile and can be quickly redeployed to the desired area. The United States once relied on them, achieving superiority over other countries in this component. In the future, these systems will become carriers of hypersonic missiles. Along with this, he noted that now there is no danger of military collision between Russia and NATO, and that multinational battle groups themselves do not pose a threat in contrast to deployment of HIMARS and M270 systems. Biden expressed confidence that Russia would not use nuclear weapons. Russian President Vladimir Putin is not even remotely considering the use of nuclear weapons because of the situation in Donbass, White House President Joe Biden said. I don't think Vladimir Putin, is even remotely considering the use of nuclear weapons, but I think he is focused on convincing the world of his ability to change the dynamics in Europe, the American leader said during a White House press conference on the situation around Ukraine. According to him, the Russian leader has allegedly already made some kind of decision on further steps concerning the Ukrainian side. Biden responded in the affirmative to the journalist's question whether he was sure of Putin's intention to invade Ukraine. At the same time, according to the American head, Washington will count on a diplomatic solution to the situation until the invasion takes place. In addition, Joe Biden said that the Luhansk and Donetsk People's Republics, LNR and DNR, are guilty of violating the ceasefire in Donbass. According to him, Russian-backed forces are trying to provoke Kyiv to escalate the situation in the region. He called reports about an attack by Kyiv in Donbass disinformation. In addition, Biden noted that U.S. intelligence had information that Russia would allegedly attack Ukrainian territory and even invade Kyiv in the coming weeks. On February 18, the heads of the self-proclaimed Luhansk and Donetsk People's Republics, LNR and DNR, Leonid Pasechnik and Denis Pushilin, said that the authorities had started to evacuate residents of the People's Republics to Russia due to shelling of Donbass by Ukrainian security forces. Pushilin also said that Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky will soon order the military to go on the offensive to implement a plan to invade Donbass territory. On Friday evening, the first buses with refugees from the Donetsk People's Republic, DNR, began arriving in the Rostov region. At the same time, the authorities of many Russian regions said that they were ready to accept refugees from the LNR and DNR. Thus, the Chelyabinsk region stated that it is currently preparing places for 500 family children, as well as 100 minors without parental care. Social institutions, sanatoriums, rest homes and boarding schools will be able to accept refugees and provide them with everything they need. The situation at the line of contact in Donbass escalated on February 17. The DNR and LNR reported intensive shelling by Ukrainian security forces, including from heavy weapons. An extraordinary meeting of the Trilateral Contact Group on the settlement of the conflict in Donbass will be held on February 19 amid the exacerbation of the situation in the DNR and LNR. Mikko Kinnunen, the OSCE special representative of the head of the group, said that the security situation in Donbass and along the line of contact was very alarming. Since 2014, the Kyiv authorities have been conducting a military operation against the residents of Donbass, who refused to recognize the results of the coup d'état and the new government in Ukraine. At the same time, Kyiv blames Moscow for the situation. Russia has repeatedly stated that it is not a party to the internal Ukrainian conflict. Its settlement is being discussed in the Minsk and Normandy formats.